Okay, hello there. My name is Misty from the Twitch channel Sorty VTV, and on Twitter as well. Also associated with Sorty Meeks, who is my interdimensional manager. Yes. So, I am doing a speedrun marathon demo of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. This will be an any percent glitchless run. No glitches allowed. As per rules of the speedrun.com leaderboard, the run must start on the Switch home screen. So that's where I am, and we will get started. Get my self situated. There we go. New game, and 3, 2, 1, and starting. Alright, so this is a remake of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Game Boy and the subsequent DX version for technically also the Game Boy as well, but it works on Game Boy Color with enhanced features. And this is the 2019 remake of those games. And yeah, so we will get started. What I'm hoping to do with commentary for this, a lot of times when I have done glitchless commentary for this game at other marathons, I've talked a lot about the plot and the setting and the history of the game. I also want to start integrating in a little bit more about the actual movement and the speedrun mechanics behind the game. Because this is a very accessible game, I think, for beginners, especially the glitchless category. While it is definitely very difficult at higher end or higher levels of play, it is not too bad for an entry point as well. So, starting out, we grab our sword. The plot is that Link has washed up on Koholint Island after a shipwreck. He was rescued by a pretty young lady named Marin, and we are on an adventure to try to escape the island by locating the the 8 instruments of the sirens. Yeah. So, movement in the early game. So when you're just starting out in the game, your movement is actually fairly limited. We're mostly just moving and trying to pick the best lines to walk in. So you're trying to position yourself in the best direction to move and avoid getting hit by enemies like just happened there. Learning how to get around these keys here, etc. So one thing you may have already noticed is we are not playing in English, we are playing in German. And technically, any language is just as fast as any other language in this game. Because you can just mash through any text box immediately. However, for some reason, German is mashed together into smaller, or less text boxes, rather. Oops, that's unfortunate. So while, in English, when you, exit a dungeon in English, you get 2 text boxes. For some reason, in German, they cram that all into 1 text box. German efficiency. So we use German. And so what we are doing now is we have to do some little quests here before we move on to the first dungeon. And you can kind of see how we are trying to move through the forest in as optimized of a way as possible. And there is an element, especially early game, there is an element of RNG where sometimes enemies will just walk in front of you. And so part of the difficulty, and it can be the difference of it, you know, anywhere from like, you know, saving a few seconds to saving, you know, tens of seconds, and how mobs decide to move. Like, I lose a bit of time there because that one decided that it needed to get magic powdered. But then I got a damage boost off of the Zol. So there's always a lot of little things at play here that can cause a good bit of variability throughout the run. And one thing I am doing as well is, and I will discuss it a bit later, is I am doing what is known as a kill count. So I am counting particular numbers of enemies to influence when I get a particular power-up drop. And so there's a number of methods to do kill counting in this game, because normally you're meant to count up to around like 36, 37 enemies. And some of those enemies are, which is a big number to count up to. That's hard to remember. Fortunately, some enemies are required, so you have to kill them in the game no matter what. And then you have some that are not required, that you would only kill if they get in your way. And so we take advantage of that and only count what we have to count. So this is the trendy game where we pick up the Yoshi doll. This is a little bit luck-based. It's technically skill-based, but it kind of feels like luck. Sometimes you're just like a pixel off in the wrong way and the physics don't agree with you, and this is a very common reset point for high-end runners. But fortunately, we got the Yoshi doll on first try there. This is a good example right there where I slashed two pieces of grass at once. That's a good example of the movement in this game. One sword slash, I believe, is about 10 frames. And typically, if you stand by a tile of grass, you slash your sword and you only cut one tile. So you'd have to cut 2 tiles, you have to do 2 sword slashes, so that's 20 frames. However, if you take a few frames and step inside of the grass a bit, you can cut both tiles with 1 sword swing. So you can turn a 20 frame time loss into just like a 12 or 13 frame time loss. So there's lots of little decisions that you make in this run like that. That are kind of, oftentimes kind of split second, especially as you get further into the run and you get faster movement options. And you have decision points right there with like that Octorok. I probably should have defeated that Octorok, but I did not. Mainly just because I want to keep my, again, the kill count, my kill count under a certain number. Oh, and as I mentioned before, I kind of got cut off there a bit with the kill count discussion. Is we're only counting the enemies that we don't have to kill. So I know a specific number of enemies. Right now it's about 8 that I am wanting to kill before I get to a certain point in the game. But anyway, so right now we are in the first dungeon, which again is just kind of some tight movement. Getting past the mole dorm and the keys there. That jail back at the start of the dungeon that jumped on me and was kind of messing with me, slowing me down. That can be avoided, and normally I do avoid it, but I didn't this time. This game has a neat little trick with the shield if I can do it right. I was a bit early. If you do that correctly, you can knock that first turtle into that pit. However, it is very tight timing. Unfortunately, we did not get it this time. But that's okay. It doesn't save that much time. Although with the glitchless run, the higher up you get in the leaderboard as such, if you want to use that terminology, little mistakes like that do start to add up. And so, you know, right now, you know, this is kind of like a marathon setting, so it's relaxed, but it's making a number of mistakes like early in the game. If you're going for a PB, little mistakes like that can like make you stop and consider, you know, is this a reset point? But we're talking, but again, don't want to like scare off anyone, because that's like what you're thinking when you're in the top 3. When you're starting out, you know, you don't have to worry about that. And I've actually been speedrunning this game for, goodness, a little over about 2.5 years now, I think. I didn't start speedrunning it right away when it came out, but I did start speedrunning it fairly soon after it came out. About like a half year, I think. I started with the Any Glitchless No Hinox Warp category shortly after it had been codified? Created, I guess? And then, since then I have moved to the glitchless category, mainly just to improve my movement. I have been on hiatus for a little while, but I have been starting to pick the game back up. And, to improve. So, this fight was, that was Rolling Bones we just beat. Typically you want to get Rolling Bones up in the corner, preferably the top right corner, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Doing some little sword bounces off those metal traps gives you a little bit of a boost, not much. You only save like a frame or two doing that, but it looks kind of cool. So this is Moldorm, who I swear is not a hamburger. Moldorm almost just said no to me. So it's very rare, but sometimes Moldorm will just say no to you and push you into the pit, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's typically a reset if that happens. But we were fortunate there today. He was threatening it though. Moldorm was definitely letting us know who his boss. And we got our first instrument. Yay! So one thing you probably noticed, I've probably been noticing a lot of things. One thing I always like to have fun pointing out is that you've probably been noticing a lot of Mario enemies in the game. This is based off of a Game Boy game, and back then Nintendo was a lot less strict about what they put in their game, so they were like, a Zelda game, let's put a bunch of Mario characters in there, why not? Yes, that's why you see that. But you also have some stuff that kind of became Zelda staples later on. This is the first game that introduced an owl before Ocarina of Time. So the owl in this game was the inspiration for the owl in Ocarina of Time, who I want to say the name of, and I can't remember now. Kabora, I think. Anyways, also you probably just noticed I bounced off that Octorok back there. Damage boosting is a thing in this game, and so we will be using that as we can. Speaking of cans, our alligator friend here just ate an entire can of dog food, including the can. So what we're doing here, you probably remember we started with the Yoshi doll, and then we got a ribbon, and then we got a can of dog food, and now we got some, bananas. This is part of the trading quest in this game, which fortunately we don't actually complete. Normally it is quite a long side quest that kind of covers most of the game. However, we will be ending it by giving the bananas to Kiki the monkey. And we will get a stick from Kiki the monkey, but we will not ever do anything with the stick. Because we don't need to. So these kids run up, tell us that Bow Wow, the resident chain chop, has been kidnapped by the Moblin King. And so we gotta go beat up the Moblin King and get Bow Wow back. Or Comet, as he's named in German. I think is the cooler sounding name, actually. So one thing you'll notice too, so we picked up the Rock's Feather in Dungeon 1, which gave us access to jumping, which is the second Zelda game with jumping, after Zelda 2. And that allows us to get access to jump slashes, which are faster than normal slashes. So we will utilize jump slashes when we can. Alright, this is Mama King. I'm going to take a bit of quiet time here. There we go. Good. I was a little bit worried on that timing. So you can one cycle, which is when you kill that boss. You can only damage the boss once he's charged into a wall and is kind of like stunned. You can one cycle that fight, however your sword slashes have to be timed just right, and it's an unusual timing as well. Some people actually use a metronome to time that fight. I kind of do it by feel / a very slight sound cue. I actually panicked there a bit because the sound cue didn't go off on my first regular slash, so I had to kind of guess. If you get the timing just right, you can one cycle that fight. Otherwise, you will have to take 2 or potentially even 3 cycles to beat that boss, which is hard. So Comet has a special ability. Comet loves to eat other enemies, and I guess either fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure which, whatever Comet eats does not count towards your kill count. With the exception of the giant flower up here in the swamp. For some reason that one counts. I guess because it has the purple smoke. Kind of a rule of thumb is if it gives off purple smoke when it dies, it counts as a kill count. Alright. So, welcome to Dungeon 2. Up here we have some RNG, and we'll see how it does. Not great RNG. Also doesn't help that I kind of just sucked at that. So their skeletons can be in really good spots, and sometimes they can be in really bad spots. That was kind of like an in-between spot, and then I kind of messed it up. But that's okay. So this dungeon actually really doesn't have too much of a theme to it. A lot of the dungeons kind of like a theme to it. I guess the biggest one here is that this is where you get the strength bracelet that lets you pick up pots. So you see a lot of these clay jars everywhere, which I guess is the gimmick, if you could call that a gimmick. And we go through the most boring room in the game, because you cannot get over to this little elevator fast enough to catch it on its first cycle. So you have to wait, and waiting is boring. So this is the Hinox. In a glitch run, regular any % run, this Hinox here is quite important because it's used in an important skip in the game. However, glitchless, we just kill it. Now, ideally, you don't want to get grabbed like I just did. I was a little bit careless in my grabbing, or in my avoidance of getting grabbed. So that does lose some time, unfortunately, but we'll be all right. And here we kill some boos, again keeping up with the theme of Mario enemies in the game. Those are the only boos in the game, though. You'll kind of see that in this game, as sometimes there will just be rooms with like and a unique enemy, and that is the only time you will see that enemy. And yeah, lots of strange little things like that in this game. This is probably the strangest Zelda game out there. Like even compared to like Majora's Mask, the devs did not worry about stuff making sense. So this room, you have to kill these enemies in a particular order. I just got the worst luck in the world with the keys flying in there with the Pole's voice, because I have to kill the Pole's voice first. And the keys decided to get in the way of it. So this room can be very RNG dependent, and sometimes weird stuff like that happens. There's nothing you can do about it other than just, you know, keep going. There we go. Alright. So coming up here is the second boss, which is basically an auto-scroller. It's not technically, but it kind of feels like it. So whenever I am commentating for a marathon run of this game, this is always the donations point. So if you have any donations now, read them, please. Yeah, so we'll get through it. So I'll talk a bit more about the kill count, I guess, during this fight. There's nothing else to do. So the kill count. So the kill count is for a power-up called a Piece of Power in this game, which doubles Link's movement speed, and I think it doubles. May not be double. And it also, but it does double Link's attack power, which is the main thing we're looking for. And it sounds really good, but really it's not great to pick up normally, because you get a text message right before, or right after you pick up the Piece of Power, and you get it like every time. And that ends up losing you time, so when you pick up a Piece of Power, it basically balances out. However, there are two fights in this game where it actually is beneficial to use, and it does speed up your it does speed up the fights for you. I actually guessed wrong on that genie, which I have not done in a very long time. Of course, in a marathon recording, you're going to get the "that's never happened before." You have to listen to a sound cue and then go after the genie that is furthest away from you. I was having trouble telling which version of the genie there was the furthest away from me. So that's how that happened. But anyway, so Piece of Power, we want to get that, and you get a Piece of Power drop after getting a certain number of kills. So basically all we're doing is we're trying to time our kills to get a Piece of Power as close to those bosses as possible, because it only lasts about 30 seconds, I think, 30-40 seconds. So we want to get that Piece of Power and use it as fast as possible. And we have one of those points coming up here soon in a bit of a mini boss inside of a mini dungeon, I guess you call it. So we'll get past these Warblins here. So we cleared Dungeon 2, and so we are going to go on some side quests to get into Dungeon 3. So that's kind of the pacing of this game if you're playing it casually. Although we kind of end up breaking that pacing about halfway through. Is you do some side quests, you get into a dungeon, you do a few more side quests, you get into a dungeon. And that way you kind of get to know the residents of the island a bit more. You get to like explore the island and learn secrets and stuff. And then you go into a dungeon. So the game is actually paced like really well. Even the original games are just paced really well in that regard. And yeah, it just ends up working really good. So we took Bow Wow back to his home, back to Madame Meow Meow, who gave us a kiss. She's a very sweet lady. We love her, Madame Meow Meows. And there's Marin over there. If you talk to her, I think she sings at you. So here we're going to be good customers. We're going to buy some bombs, and then we want to buy a shovel as well. But that shovel is 200 rupees, which is a bit expensive. So we're just gonna steal it. Alright, now we have to dodge this attack, or, come on, come on! Aw, shoot, I missed it. Time loss. Not really. So there's an attentive mechanic in this game, in the originals, is to being able to steal items. However, the consequence of stealing is, if you walk back into a store, the shopkeeper zaps you, and everyone on the island will call you Thief. And the reason why we steal there is that to get the shovel and the bow cost, I believe, what would that be? Basically 1,200 rupees. 1,199 rupees. Which would take us a very long time to grind. So we're not going to grind. We just steal them and we'll walk away. These mobs really want to get in my way today. So what we're doing now is normally you go find this guy named Richard, who's hanging out in a little house called Richard's Villa. And he gives you a side quest and is like, hey, I used to live in this castle. Can you go into this castle? And my servants in the castle kicked me out for some reason, never says why. And he's like, he doesn't want you to recover his castle, he just wants you to go and get 5 golden leaves out of his castle. So you're like, okay, we'll go get your golden leaves. However, you don't have to talk to him to start that side quest, you can just go do this right away, so it's just what we're doing. But we'll get the side quests once we go to deliver the side quest items to him. So this is Canalit Castle. We gotta break in through the back here. Also, that was the end of the trading quest there. We gave Kiki the monkey bananas, and they and their friends built a bridge for us. And we got a stick in return. Or a stock in German. So Link is playing the stock market. Alright, so now we start our golden leaf collection. Gotta sadly blow up that crow there. Which is unfortunate. I'm going to try to get around that. That guard was being very nice today. So we're also going to be utilizing bomb areas in this run, which is actually a glitch in the original game. But it kind of became so infamous that the devs just kind of put it into this one. I think they were in Twilight Princess as well. So there's our second golden leaf. And here's the piece of power I've been talking about. So we're going to use that to beat up a little mini boss here. Alright, so one. So I'm having to do kill counting here. I might be a little bit quiet in this area just because I gotta crunch some numbers in my head. Alright, this one's a bit tricky. You have to line up just right. And that is not really how you want to do that. Ideally, you want to not get injured and just do that on first try, because it wastes an arrow. Arrow counts are really important in this category. And so wasting an arrow is never good. It's never good. Alright. So, you notice how fast and strong we are? We're going to beat up this mini boss in just 5 sword swings. So normally it takes 10 sword swings to fight that boss, and as you can see, you kind of bounce away from that boss, and you have to reposition every time you hit it. So being able to defeat that boss in 5 swings instead of 10 is very advantageous. Oops. Play whack-a-mole here. get our final golden leaf. I always want to call them golden feathers, because they look like feathers to me. They're leaves. Ah, dark nut. Just a bit of a jerk. Alright, so we are going to go and give those leaves to Richard now. So, one thing you may notice with like my movement, which is not the best in the world right now, I am a little bit rusty. I'm getting back to where I was at playing this game. I went on hiatus for a while. Only recently I've picked it back up again. Is you're trying to focus on like a lot of diagonal movement and damage boosts as well at this point. At this point you have enough health and you have the Rock's Feather that you're really wanting to take advantage of feather boosting and jump slashes and all of that. So this is Richard. This is the guy we give the leaves to, who has a very nice house with lots of frogs in it. So you know, he's a good person. He's kind of a jerk, but you know, deep down inside he's a good person because he loves frogs. And anyone who loves frogs is A-okay in my book. Hashtag frogs might be my favorite animal. So, here... Oh! Darn it. So this is that's the pothole maze that they call it. There's a bunch of holes under like most of the bushes in that maze. And I know the fastest way to get through it without falling into a hole, but I did not succeed there. So this is Dungeon 3 that we're going to be going into. Again, just kind of using our jump slash movement. It's actually it's kind of interesting. You kind of end up with a particular like finger pacing with jump slashes. I actually equate it to doing short hops in Super Smash Brothers Ultra or Ultimate rather. It's kind of like that. It's not as precise as that, by any means, but it's kind of the timing I go for, if that makes sense. There you go. Kind of utilize that bomb to blow up that stop voice for us. So welcome to Dungeon 3, which is Key Cavern in English, or the Devil's House in German. Why it's called the Devil's House in German is not known. There's no devils in this dungeon. Maybe the developers or the localizers just particularly hated this dungeon for some reason. But the main gimmick for this dungeon is you have to collect a bunch of small keys, like a lot of small keys. Because to get to the main boss area, you have to have like 4 small keys for it, which is of course after you get the boss key and the dungeon item. And that bomb may have not been in a great position, but we'll go with it. These are Dodongo snakes. Not much to say about them. They have kind of a set pattern that they go around in, and as long as you time everything right and position your bombs right, you can get them to eat the bomb like as early as they're able to. They can be a bit tricky to learn, and not everyone understands like how they work. I keep needing to make a tutorial video on how they work, because I feel like I'm one of the few people that fully grasp their AI. And this is also the only category where you fight them as well. All other categories have found ways to glitch around them. This is the only category where you ever fight Dodongo snakes, ever. So I don't think a lot of people are super familiar with fighting them in the speedrun community for this game, unless they play this category. So here we're just going around these things. So bombs don't count towards your kill count, which makes things kind of interesting. Again, when they die, they don't put off purple smoke, which is kind of the general indicator that that they don't count towards your kill count. So we'll dash in here. Oh, I didn't talk about that. That was so silly. So you notice I'm dashing now. That's not how you want to do that. So, I am dashing now. We got the Pegasus boots, which allows us to dash. And that opens up a whole new movement set for us now. Dashing is the second fastest way to move in the game, I believe. So that is something we will be taking advantage of as we go through the game. Sorry, we'll be doing some more of that kill counting in my head here a little bit. Make sure I get on the right number. So that would be 4. Use a power drop. My math was correct. Unfortunately, that is not really where you want the piece of power to drop. It's not a super great spot. But I was able to confirm where my kill count is at, and I am all on track. So now I need to get 17 more non-required kills before I get to the Dungeon 5 boss. Which kind of sounds like nonsense until you know the run. It's like it makes sense, I swear. I'm actually grab those piece of those heart those flying hearts there, because I do want to have a good bit of health coming out of this dungeon. I'm not going to be picking up any more heart containers from bosses, unless I just like really have to for some reason. Also, this is Gigazol. Say hello to Gigazol. Gigazol is very shiny. And coming up, the next mini boss I end up fighting, there's strats that I use in that boss that end up causing me a lot of damage. So ideally I want to be at 4.5 or 5 hearts before fighting that fight. And so trying to get up to that number. Right now I'm actually a half a heart behind from where I want to be. I took some damage from the boss that I didn't really want to. But we will work with that. Again, I'm a little bit rusty, but we're shaking off the rust. We're getting there. Alright, so this is our next big kind of side quest part of the game. If you can read my splits, you see that we're going on a date with someone soon. Which is exciting. We gotta make a couple of stops before we go on our date, though. You know, one of the most romantic pastimes that you can do on your first date with someone who you don't really know is to be able to play a musical instrument for them. So we gotta pick up a musical instrument. We got to you know, going and seeing some animals, like at a zoo or something with a date first time is kind of nice. So, you know, we gotta get that prepared here. We got our walrus friend who will help us out with our date, along with our bunny friend there. So we'll teleport. This is actually one of the parts in the game I think like a lot. This is kind of like it's not the middle of the game, but the game kind of treats it like the middle of the game, where it's one of the more, I guess, extended overworld sections happens, and you really get to like know a lot of the residents. So, spoilers for like a 20-something-year-old game. It ends up the plot of the game is that you are trapped inside of the dream of the windfish. So this island isn't like actually real. It's like inside a giant godfish's dream. However, inside of the island, inside the dream, there's the dream shrine, which is where we're at right now. Which you go inside of and fall asleep, and you go into a dream. So you're inside you're in a dream inside of a dream, and you get an ocarina, and you take the ocarina, outside of the dream into the other dream. And it's not the most optimal movement I did right there, but it worked. Yeah, this game makes tons of sense, so don't worry about it. Alright, 1. So that is our first monster of our our final kill count, rather. So, this is Marin. This is the girl who rescued us off the beach when we washed up on the island after our shipwreck. She's kind of the Zelda, I guess, of this game. Zelda is not actually in this game at all. This is the first Zelda game without a Zelda. And so she's like... She's the one person who, if you beat the game without taking any deaths, which unfortunately we don't do in this run, she's actually able to escape the island and becomes a seagull. Yeah, so she's our I guess love interest. But we get to go on a date with her. So good date etiquette is when you start your date, make sure you pick up the person you're dating off the ground and hold them in the air, and treat them like the treasure they are. And then the next date tip is to pick up a heavy boulder so you look impressive. Are you writing all this down? You gotta pick up a heavy old boulder, show off your strength. Alright. Then you take them to visit, you know, there's our animal friends. See, this is paying off now. This is paying off. We're visiting our animal friends with our date, and we have the walrus. And then if you're lucky, your date will sing a song to the walrus. If anything, the walrus is having fun here. The walrus is quite happy. So happy it splashes off into the water. And our date is technically ended, but we'll have one more little ending here with Marin shortly. But first, we gotta go beat up a sandworm. This is the moment of the game where we step into Dune a little bit. Alright, I'll be quiet for this fight. That's unfortunate. Ideally, you can one-cycle Landmola. Unfortunately, you really want a 2-cycle. This is going to be a 3-cycle. But I kind of messed up my positioning there. This fight is very tricky. You're constantly fighting against the sand pulling you down to the center there. So movement is really wonky. But we got the angler key, which is the main thing. 2. And we are good. So that key is how we get into the 4th dungeon, which is why we've been doing all this side quest. Besides getting the ocarina, which is required to beat the game. As well as the Ballad of the Windfish, which we're about ready to get. So now we really get to finish up our date with Marin here. We get to have a little musical number with her. And I am going to let you enjoy the music while I rest my voice for a second. There we go. Alright. You gotta make sure you say yes to this. Back in the beach cutscene and this cutscene, you have to say yes to Marin twice. Otherwise, she'll, like, sing the song to you again. Which casually is very nice. It's a very good song. I recommend listening to it a lot. For a speedrun, we don't want to listen to it more than once. So I like to call that lovingly encore skip. Because I may or may not have, you know, accidentally said no a few times in my life. But you never want to say no to Marin. You always want to say yes to Marin. She is a very good young lady. Bonk. So that's not what you want to do here. You have to kind of stand awkwardly here. I am not going down far enough. There we go. Grab some of those hard stairs for safety. And we'll get into Dungeon 4 here. I always love the entrance to Dungeon 4. The eyes being a little bit wibbly wobbly. You kind of notice like this is going to be a water-themed dungeon. Let's kill 4. Sorry if I count out loud here a little bit. Just my brain. There we go. Not the most eloquent movement there, but we made it. Oof. 5. I'm just going to do some counting here for a second. 8, 9. Okay, that's a bit high now. Sometimes your count gets a little bit high and you have to kind of adjust for that. Not much you can do. Here we go. Alright. So, welcome to Wundertunnel, in German, or I believe it's Angler's Tunnel, Angler Tunnel, I think in English, I forget now. I've played this game so much in German at this point where I don't even know English names anymore. So, this dungeon is a bit unique because we're going to do a bit of a trick here that, to the untrained eye, will look like a glitch. And you're going to be like, Misty, this is glitchless. Why are you glitching? And the truth is we are not glitching. But we are going to be abusing the physics of this game to skip part of the dungeon, which saves a ton of time. And it's also just way more interesting. And we will do that now, so be quiet here for a second while I concentrate on this. There we go. First try. So what we do there is, nothing we do there is anything the game does not intend. The position that we throw the bomb at, the timing we use, none of that is glitched. Everything is fully intentional. But we do use intended things to do something that is unintended. And some might see that as a bit of a glitch, but since we're not like technically breaking the game in any way that's like out of bounds or you know, unintended like programming, we are able to just kind of get through this dungeon quick and easy like. And we pick up our flippers and we just leave. Also, I was not counting my enemies in there. I know I got 2 at the end. I think I am probably at 11. Sorry, I'm gonna do some... No, I'd be at 12. Okay. Sorry, I had to do some math in my head there. Oh, this is Mambo's Mambo. This is the song that lets us warp. Also a bop. Mambo Mambo. What was I saying now? Oh yeah. So you notice that we grabbed the flippers out of Dungeon 4 and we just left. We didn't beat Dungeon 4 yet. And that is because once you beat Dungeon 4, the game opens up this mandatory side quest that you have to beat, where if you move a certain distance south in the map, which is sorry, I'm having to think here for a second. There we go. A certain distance in the map, which is most of the map, you have this little ghost that starts to follow you. And the ghost wants you to take it back to its home, where it used to live when it was alive. And then when you do that, you have to take it back to its grave, so it can rest. And that's a really long side quest, and you're not able to enter any dungeons while the ghost is following you. So we just avoid that side quest altogether, and Dungeon 4 will actually be the last dungeon that we clear. Yeah. And we're able to stay north enough in the map where we don't accidentally Okay, so that was actually... I'm just going to keep my kill count where I'm at. That piece of power dropped a little bit later than I was expecting, but that should be fine. Alright. So, this is the Armos Knight, who is, you see on my splits, has a bad hitbox. This is the one part of the game that I am like, this is bad. Oh. That is not how you want to do that fight. Again, we're getting rust off. It's all right. As I was saying, the hitbox, and you actually probably saw it in that fight. The hitbox on that Armos Knight is really bad, even casually. It extends like far out away from the Armos than you would expect. So you'll be like 10 pixels away from it, and you will still get hit by its hitbox. It's kind of bad. It's literally like, there's like the only bad thing in the entire game. So don't let that scare you off. So unfortunately, my health is a little bit on the low side. Hopefully we can correct that here in this dungeon. So we're gonna be a little bit more careful than I normally am in here. Just because I am in a little bit of a rough spot. Okay, there we go. I took a bit more damage from that boss than I normally do. So, this is kind of the end of my kill count. This is kind of the end where I don't have to... Once I'm done, I don't have to keep numbers in my head anymore. Which is always, you know, nice. But anyway, so this is Dungeon 5. This is Catfish Mall in English. I think it's just Fish Mall in German. Yeah, just Fish Mall. So this dungeon is actually fairly straightforward. It does have a lot of tight movement in it, and a lot of like enemies to avoid. In addition to, again, working to keep your kill count, you know, in an optimal position. The other gimmick of this, or the main gimmick of this dungeon, is this little mini boss here, which is Master Stalfos. Who stole the dungeon item from this dungeon. So the dungeon item is in that chest there. But if you open it up, it has like just a note inside of it from Master Stalfos. It's like, hey, I stole the dungeon item. Come get it for me. Mwahahaha. So we gotta go beat him up 4 separate times in the dungeon. Which is not too bad. Not too difficult. It's pretty straightforward. The main thing with these fights is kind of like positioning and timing everything as quickly as possible. So you have to hit Master Stalfos and then blow him up with a bomb while he's down on the ground. So kind of get the timing there for those for the bomb, along with your sword slashes and the positioning, because you also want to like position where like you can exit the door as fast as possible after the fight. All that together, you know, it's kind of fun actually. You can just kind of learn, you know, what is the most optimal way I can do this fight. But you know, it's one of those things with Glitchless where you're just really trying to, you know, eke out every last frame you can, because you don't have glitches to, you know, help you get ahead of where someone else, you know, running the game may have been able to do so. You're kind of having to make up for that. So we're going to go beat up Master Stalfos for the last time. And we will get the hook shot. So there's a really cool glitch when you play the glitch runs of this game called Hookshot Rocket, where you basically glitch on top of the hookshot once it falls, and you fly on top of it to the instrument to exit the dungeon, and you don't even fight the boss. It's really fun. It's one of the best glitches in the game. And unfortunately we don't get to see it in Glitchless, because, you know, Glitchless. Alright, swatch my hookshot there. Hookshot is an interesting item in this game. It is actually the fastest movement in the game. But unfortunately, because it is the hookshot, you have to have a target for it to hook onto. And it does have to be, I think, a certain distance away before it is actually faster. I think it has to be like at least like 3/4 of the screen away for it to be the fastest form of movement. So we don't get to use it for movement a whole lot. Ow. These bloopers are not wanting to cooperate with me today. There we go. Again, more Mario enemies. See a lot of the Mario enemies in like the 2D sections of the game. Which I guess this kind of makes sense. Because this was long before Mario 64. Alright. So we got the boss key, so now we're going to go to the boss. So another like I'm going to talk about now, another semi-glitch that we not glitch, but another mechanic that we have used that kind of looks like a glitch. There we go. I should stop saying it's a glitch, because this is glitchless. It's called angle skewing. And basically we're able to use our Rock's Feather to angle Link into a direction that he normally can't point if you're just using standard movement. Oh, and we did not get our piece of power drop yet, so hopefully we'll get it from these guys. If not, we will just move on. Okay, I was actually ahead. That is unusual. I don't think it will drop from this guy, but we'll try it. No, just a fairy. Alright, well, we'll do it without piece of power. That's unfortunate. Here's our angle skew. And we're able to get over this ledge without having to go all the way around, fight another mini-boss, and open up that small block key there. We're able to just get into the boss fight. Okay, so ideally you want to have a piece of power when you get into this boss fight. I messed up my kill counting, though. And once I am... So the reason why you want piece of power in this fight is very RNG heavy. And even with a piece of power, you actually only have a 3 in 4 chance of the boss being in the optimal position for you to take advantage of it. That's 5 hits. This boss takes 16 hits normally. And with piece of power, it only takes 8. Which is significantly faster. So typically with a piece of power you can one-cycle this fight. Again, 75% chance you can do that. Even if you do get unlucky though with the 25% and it's a bad pattern, it's still faster. So you really want the piece of power there. But we made it through. We don't need no piece of power. We're good. We're good. Piece of power will probably drop. We'll actually have to think about how this works now. Piece of power will actually probably drop on the next bush I slash. Shrine. So, this time we don't have any side quests. We just go straight to Dungeon 6. We have a little gap here where we have to actually walk to it. I always call it the overly short split. I also want to have a piece of power drop, so I guess it counts it with a boss. Piece of power drops are kind of odd once you kill a boss. Like if a heart container drops, it kind of like overwrites like the piece of power drop. It's weird. It's a whole thing. Also, that bomb fairy is a jerk. But we already did the side quest for this dungeon earlier when we went to the Southern Shrine and fought the Armist Knight. It gives us the key for this dungeon. So Dungeon 6 is the kind of make it or break it dungeon for the run. This is probably the most technically hard dungeon. It does involve a lot of really precise movement. And if you mess up on things, it can lose you a lot of time, especially the mini bosses and then the boss of the dungeon as well. However, our arrow count, well, our arrow count wasn't a good spot. Oh, there's our piece of power drop. Yeah, I must have been pretty well off on my kill count. I'm not quite sure what I did there, but I'll have to investigate that later and figure out why my piece of power dropped so much later than I was expecting. I suspect I overcounted in Dungeon 4. But we won't worry about that. Again, shaking off some rust. I played this game pretty steadily for about like a year and a quarter, year and a half. And then I kind of got a little bit burned out on it, so I took a break. But I'm coming off my break now as of October 1st of 2022. So if you're watching this, like, 5 years from now, you know, that won't be as relevant of information. Alright, here we gotta get a small key, which can be a bit tricky to get. That's not how you want to do that. I kind of... There we go. We use a particular timing. There's 2 different ways that Anti-Fairy can move in this room. If it moves right, it's really easy to time things, but if it moves left, the timing is much more difficult. Or some people just opt to set a bomb in between the 2 Wizrobes there and not even mess with the timing, which is very valid because that timing is kind of tight, kind of annoying. This is always the annoying part of this dungeon, are these little tile puzzles. You just have to kind of wait on them. Coming up here, we have the mini-boss Smasher, who I am going to try to steal its ball away from it, and we did it! Alright. Oh! I messed up there. It takes 4, not 3. My bad. There we go. So, if you're able to grab the ball before Smasher does in a fight, it goes much faster, because otherwise you have to wait for him to get it and throw it. I should say them. I don't know which gender. Kind of bomb area your way through that room. And it's a combination of good positioning and hitting the A button on the right frame to get it before Smasher. And you can kind of get it down to where you get it like about 60% of the time. But sometimes you're just not going to get it, and it stinks, but we actually got it there. I messed up a bit on the end of it, but that's okay, because I still got it. Alright. So, I didn't talk about before, the dungeon item in this dungeon is strength level 2. Oh, I was supposed to open that. It's strength level 2, which is only used in a couple of places in the entire game. It's used on the statues in this dungeon, and I think they're in D8 as well. And then you need it to get the Flying Rooster statue open in Maeve Village, and that's like all it's used for. So not too much to say. If I can position myself right here, there we go. I'll blame that on my controller. I need a new controller. Those horse chess pieces in the original games, they're completely random where they land. In this game, you can stand in precise areas and like always get them. Here we are able to kill the Pole's voices with just playing the Ballad of the Windfish, which is a callback to Zelda 1. And here we have the Dodongo snakes again, our favorites. Oh, number 2 here is going to mess with us a bit. 2, 3. There we go. Sorry, just kind of doing some counting there while we wait. So if you position everything just right with the right timing, you can get through that fight relatively easy without like any problems. But if you make mistakes in that fight, the Dodongo snakes can like really get away from you like really quickly. It kind of happened there a little bit with that second one, because I didn't position the bomb just right. So it's just like one of those areas in this dungeon that you can just lose time on the Dodongo snakes, and there's not... You just have to... You either do it right the first time, or it kind of gets away from you. And that's something you have to kind of... If you're, again, in kind of like the higher the higher levels of play in this category. You kind of just have to really watch for that. So, shoutouts to me not getting sent back to the entrance of the dungeon. Oh, I messed that up. There we go. If you fall inside that purple eye that was sucking you in, you actually get sent back to the start of the dungeon. But I'm a professional, so I can jump slash it and not have that happen. Don't try this at home, kids. You know, unless you're learning to speedrun this game, in which case do try it. You know, mistakes are good. So this is Facade. This is a very hard fight. So I am going to be quiet during it while I concentrate. Alright, that was not the best fight. Ideally, you don't want to mess up like I did with kind of the third hit there. But we got through it. And that's the important thing. You didn't die. Honestly, sometimes that's the hardest thing with Facade, is just not dying. But we made it. We made it. So the trick with that fight is the first 3 bombs. The Facade spawns in the same place and like the same timing for like the first 3 hits, and then afterwards it's random. So ideally, what you want to do is be able to. Sorry, my mind blanked there. You just have to kind of defend the bombs that you set on the ground for the first 3, and then use bomb arrows for the rest. And you just have to kind of play with the RNG and hope you get good positioning, which is very difficult to do. And actually, well, it's hard for me to say in glitched runs, but I'll talk about that another time. For now, we're going to focus on pothole. Oh, I did this wrong. I have to actually read the first sign. So this is Signpost Maze, and I'm actually going to concentrate on this because it is. It looks easy, but it's not. But it is a lot of fun. But it does require some optimal movement, which that was not it. Again, for the record, I have not played this in a little while. So forgive my rust. I am better than this. That's the speedrunner in me coming out right now. This run sucks, you know. You know how it is. Alright, we made it. But yeah. Alright, so here we get objectively the best song in the game. From our good friend Mambo here. Or not Mambo. Mondo? What was his name? I forget his name now. It's Wart. It's Wart from Mario 2. He has a different name in this game. I forget now what it is. I think it's different in each language too. But if you ever wonder what happened to Wart after the United States version of Super Mario Bros. 2, he hopped into the Windfish's dream outside of Mario's dream and started up a band. You know, as you do. Okay, they actually call him Wart in German. I forget what his name is in English now. I forget now. It's like, it's not Mambo. It's like Manuba? Mabu? I forget now. Doesn't matter. This is where the run gets a little bit sus here. Because we're going to do some necromancy. We're not going to worry too much about the ethics of necromancy. Because we need this rooster. we need this rooster alive so we can fly with it. So this is Knuckles. I like to call him Knuckles. I think everyone kind of has a bit of a different name for him. But he's our trusty flying rooster, who will help us get to Dungeon 7. I call him Knuckles because in reference to Knuckles from the hit video game Sonic Boom. In Sonic Boom, there was a rather infamous glitch that was found like in the first day or so of that game's launch, where you could abuse Knuckles and I think the pause button, and basically just fly in the game. You could get infinite height on your jumps, and similar to that. In this game, Knuckles is kind of completely broken. And if this were a glitch run, we would be flying through like the mountains and stuff with Knuckles. He is a very broken bird. He is very OP, and we do love our Knuckles. But in this category, we are doing this glitchless, so we have to be good and not break the game with Knuckles here. We will do things as vanilla as possible. Ooh! I have not had that happen in a very long time. So you don't want to fall down that hole. Technically, you're supposed to use Knuckles to fly over that, but you can make that jump. If you time things just right, which I did not do. I have not made that mistake in quite a while. I can't say that's never happened before, but that has not happened in a very long time. But we do have to use Knuckles for this section here. We still have not we haven't found Roosterless to get this key in the glitched runs. But we don't need this key. Well, actually, we do need this key in the glitch runs, do we? Yes. I think we still need the key in the... I still think we need the key in the glitch runs. There's been a lot of... I haven't played Glitched in a while, and there's a lot of new glitches that... I keep wanting to get... My goal is actually to get... is to get a 137 in this category. It's my ultimate goal. Which would be world record, but that's not so much my goal at this point as it is to be, hopefully, maybe the first person to get 137. There's no guarantee for that. That would be what I'd like to do. And once I'm able to achieve that, I'm going to move back to the No Hinox Warp category, is my plan. And shoot for world record there. But that's a little bit off in the future. I need to get a lot less rusty before I am able to accomplish that goal. Grab the warp point there. That'll be important later. So here we're just mainly just going through these caves, going up to Dungeon 7. I guess it's kind of like a reference to the Paradox Caves and Link to the Past. Kind of making our way through there so we can get to Dungeon 7. Our good buddy Knuckles here, head empty. What's between those eyes? Is it a brain? No, just feathers. No brain. Alright. So, look at the Dungeon 7, Eagle's Tower. Not sure what it is in German, or what that translates to in German. Actually forget, I think it may just be Eagle's Tower as well, but I can't remember now. Oh, but this is Dungeon 7. So the main mechanic, or the main, I guess, gimmick rather, in this dungeon is, you have these, giant metal cannonballs. And we're going to use these to break, 4 stone pillars in this dungeon, which this is the first one right there. And that will send the top floor of the dungeon down into the floor right underneath it, which lets us get access to the boss. So the main thing we're doing here is it's just going around and breaking these pillars. Dungeon 7 is also kind of one where there's a lot less like RNG, and you don't have to worry about like enemies getting in your way as much as like Dungeon 6. But there is still kind of like, you know, optimal movement that you're looking for. Otherwise, it tends to be, I guess, with one of the more relaxed dungeons. It's definitely a place you want to kind of like catch your breath, if you will, before you move on to Dungeon 8, which is kind of the big final gauntlet, if you will. Before the final boss. Oh, and Dungeon 4, I guess. Dungeon 4 is just like a blink and you miss it, though. So we got 3 pillars down. We'll go for number 4 here. All in all, it's actually a rather short dungeon, too. But you do have like little movement things that you just have to kind of optimize. So used to the mini-boss in this dungeon was really easy, and then we found a way to defeat the mini-boss faster. So now it's not as easy, so that's something notable. There we got the dungeon item, which is the mirror shield, and it is basically useless. Also, I forgot to do that. It's like, why are those blocks out there? Oh goodness. Oh goodness. There we go. We got through it. So used to I had a joke where I did this mini boss with my eyes closed because it was that easy. I'm not able to do that now. That was not optimal, but we're just going to clear the boss. That's the important thing. So ideally, what you want to do is you're able to jump slash. It takes 2 jump slashes for it to work, but you're able to actually kill those little bird bat things in the air. But it does take double sword slashes on each one, double jumping sword slashes. But if you're able to do it quickly, it is faster than just like waiting on the boss to play the flute and have them all fly at you. So that's actually a new trick that showed up while I was on hiatus, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to practice it yet. But no, that is what I will be working on. That enemy there is the one annoying enemy in this dungeon. Is 3 of a kind. It is kind of RNG based, where it'll be position, and you have to get them all to have the same card suit on them. Also, that Hinox there, the red Hinox there, that is the most broken enemy in the entire game. In an 80% category, you actually use that boss to just have that boss throw you to the instrument room. It's a very difficult glitch, but a very fast glitch if you get it to work right. Yeah, it's completely broken, but we don't find it at all in Glitchless. And in the no Hinox Warp category, you also don't find it, because Hinox Warp is banned in that category. And the reason why we ban it in that category is because it is such a broken glitch. it kind of takes the fun out of some of the run for some people, myself included. There's also a heavy RNG element associated with it as well. So sometimes Hinox Warp is just not appealing to runners, and so we just have a separate category where we just don't even bother with it. So you also notice we kind of didn't beat the boss in this dungeon either. We kind of went and got our mirror shield and collapsed the ceiling, and we just moved on. The reason for that is right there where I just hook shot. If you beat Dungeon 7 and you come out this way, Marin has actually been trapped up on top of the mountain by some monsters, and you have to rescue her. And when you do that, it's like I think it's like a minute and a half cutscene. It's a rather long cutscene that you have to watch and mash through. And it's just faster. Well, then that cutscene only triggers once you've beaten Dungeon 7. So, oftentimes, it's just faster. Oh, and we took a death. Sometimes that happens here. These boulders are very unforgiving. And sometimes they just spawn on top of you. There's not much you can do about it. Fortunately, when you die in the overworld, you just pick right back up where you died. So it doesn't lose you too much time. Still not great to happen, though. Yeah, so by not beating Dungeon 7, and by just coming out here and beating Dungeon 8 first, we're able to save having to watch that cutscene. And you need the mirror shield to get through that little flame puzzle that I just beat, or got past with the mirror shield. You have to have the mirror shield for that, so that's also why we have to go to Dungeon 7. And that's really the only thing you need the mirror shield for in the entire game. It's just that one little flamethrower in the wall. Alright, so this is another little mini boss. We're going to concentrate on it. It's not particularly hard, but it can be unforgiving. Because it does do a lot of damage if you get hit. I don't have a lot of hearts. There we go. That's actually a pretty good fight. Oh, I forgot to split. Oh no, I reset my splits! Oh no! Well, we just won't know what my final time is. Okay, that is not the optimal way to do this dungeon. I got sidetracked there with messing up my splits. I meant to skip, and I reset my splits. So we won't worry about the time. I wasn't exactly PBing anyway. Judging by where I was at with the time, this would be a 143 or 144 run. So I guess talking about the timing in this game and like kind of where I'm at, my PB is a 141.46. Most of the time when I've done races and like marathon runs, I usually hit around like a 142 or a 143 right now. And considering like this recording and a little bit how rusty I am, this would probably be, I think, about a 144 or 145. That's embarrassing. I would re-record this, but I've already been trying to do so for a few times, and I kind of need to get this out for a deadline. So we're just gonna we're just not going to worry about it and jump in the lava by mistake. So we actually mentioned before error counts are really tight in this category. And that's because of the Dungeon 7 boss. It goes a lot faster the more arrows you have. So ideally we should have, I believe, 19 or... so it'd be 9 or 10 arrows for that fight coming up if I do everything relatively correctly. We will see how that plays out here. we will pick up that small key, I promise. Alright. So this is Dungeon 8. Welcome to Dungeon 8. This is Turtle Rock. In reference to Turtle Rock from Link to the Past. Kind of has that same like fire and ice kind of theming going on. There's no real gimmick in this dungeon, other than it's just kind of meant to be a gauntlet of sorts. You can fight a bunch of the mini-bosses that you fought before. But you also have this mini-boss, which is a Blano, which I will concentrate on. Alright, Blano's going to be a bit mean here. So ideally, you can get a quick kill on Blano without him doing the that big punch there. But I kind of missed my window of opportunity. It's unfortunate, but still a good fight overall. I would not fuss about that in a PB run. You mainly just don't want to get into a position where you are not able to get behind Blano, and because once you're able to get behind Blano, you can one-shot him. Bonk. But not the most optimal, but we'll be alright. Our dungeon item for this dungeon is the magic rod, which unfortunately is not as good as the magic rod in the original versions of this game. They very much nerfed it, unfortunately. But we get by. We mainly just use it for lighting torches and then fighting the boss for this dungeon. It can also be used on the final boss as well, but if you're using it on the final boss, something has gone very wrong in your run. Dash. Alright. So here we got these little ice blocks that we melt. Some main, again, kind of the gimmick of what you need the ice rod for in this dungeon. And here we get to fight Cue Ball again from Dungeon 4, this time with lava. I'm going to concentrate on this fight. There we go. That's actually a perfect fight. That one's actually really hard. It's one of those fights that if you do everything just right, it's really fast and easy looking. But you have to do everything just right. If you miss an arrow shot, it can get out of hand really quickly. And I've seen runners like lose like entire minutes in that fight. And like really like high-end good runners like in races and stuff. So it's definitely one of those fights where like if you do mess up, you kind of have to just like stop yourself and like think and relax and just like reposition like what you're doing, because it is one of those fights that like you can end up losing a lot of time and mainly wasting arrows, which you don't want to do is waste arrows in this category. And so yeah, definitely one of those trickier fights. Alright. Hello, piece of power. We don't need you. In the original version of this game, if you got too close to the ice blocks, you get a message that says like, "Brr, this is cold," or something like that. Fortunately, in this game, you don't get that unless you press the A button next to the blocks. So that saves time. This is the Hothead. Hothead is a jerk, and I'll concentrate on this fight as well. This is definitely one of the tougher ones. That's unfortunate. Ideally, you want to one cycle this opening, but can be difficult. Now it's just 3 hits. There we go. And boom! That's Hot Head. Hot Head is like... Hot Head is skill-based, but there's also kind of like sorry to think here. There's also kind of like an element of luck to the fight as well. Because sometimes he'll just be in bad spots. Alright. We're getting through this. Instrumente. Oh, I'm messing with my splits. There's nothing to split. Force of habit. What I did is I have my splits on a number pad. It's kind of my hotkeys. And so I hit the number 6 is my reset, or is my skip. And I hit number 3 by accident. As you do on a number pad when you're not like looking at it directly. All right, so we use the warp to get back to Dungeon 7 here, all fast-like, and now we're going to go take on the Dungeon 7 boss and get out of here and get to Dungeon 4. Yep, you can jump on Goombas in this game, just like Mario. It makes even the little Goomba smashing sound. Also, part of the run where health kind of becomes important, because we do have the final boss coming up soon, and the more health you have for the final boss, the better. You can grab a heart container right before the final boss to kind of like refill your health if needed, but that is slow, and you don't want to do that. So this is the boss of Dungeon 7. This is Evil Eagle. The Grim Creeper here is his name. This uses the Evil Eagle to do this fight. This is where our arrows come in handy. You can glitch that whirlwind there by going down the ladder. Not glitch, but you know, make it go faster. Yeah, it wasn't too bad of a fight. Not a top tier fight, but not bad either. Just very middle of the road. It is a very RNG heavy boss, and sometimes you just get bad patterns, and there is nothing you can do about it. But I had 9 arrows available to me in that fight. I used 8. But yeah, the more arrows you have, just the faster that fight goes, just because your arrows are your best weapon besides like a sword slash. And as you saw, you're not always able to do a sword slash. So having the having those arrows available to you just saves so much time. And we have to have, after the fight, we have to have 11 arrows. We need 1 arrow for Dungeon 4 coming up here. And then we need 10 arrows for the final boss. So we don't want to use it if we don't have to. This time we fall down that hole. Oh, that was something else that kind of looks like a glitch and is not. Is you can just hop down on that hole and just hold like the down button on your controller, and you just like walk off of it onto the ground without falling into the hole. Which you saw me do earlier. Again, not a glitch. Whether or not it's intentional by the developers to do that is unclear, but you're not going out of bounds, you're not doing anything like particularly like weird or out of the ordinary. You're just holding the controller in a direction, which anybody could just do by accident. In the speedrunner community, we actually like vote, like anything that we want to like vote on, like is this a glitch or not. We actually vote on. We're very democratic about such things. We're able to get those stairs to appear quickly by just walking over into that other room. Oh, so that's something I have not talked about. Oops, I should just jump there, not do a jump, dash jump. That's something I haven't talked about. So you might be saying, Misty, how did you solve that puzzle? You have to go to another room in the dungeon to know the solution to that puzzle. Well, you'll notice at the very start of the run, I started this game on a pre-made save file. And what that means is there is RNG seeds that an RNG seed that is set when you start up the game at a particular time. It bases it off like the switch's clock since the power on or something like that. So what we're able to do is we're able to use a timing system to create a save file that has a particular RNG seed on it. And that lets us know what the solution to that puzzle is. This is Piranha Killer, which has the best boss name in the game. Go. That was alright fight. It could be faster though. And I guess just to be marathon safe, I am actually going to grab this heart container. Ideally I wouldn't do that, but I'm a little bit... I can try to farm hearts outside of the final area, but that doesn't always result in hearts. So I'm just gonna play it safe and grab that heart container. Just be marathon safe. Sorry, mind blank there. So I was talking about what was I talking about before I got in there? I forget now. That's all right. But yeah, so that was all the instruments of the sirens. So now that Ghost can spawn, I talked about before, since we beat Dungeon 4. However, if you stay north enough on the map, that won't happen. And we are lucky enough that we're able to warp right here and not incur the wrath of the Ghost. And get into the final boss without the ghost spawning. If I went south of this area, the ghost would spawn. So if for some reason you missed anything earlier in the game and you beat Dungeon 4, you can't go back to it unless you have to do the entire ghost side quest, which is... oops, wrong song. There we go. Which is very, very not fast. Here we go. And this is the Ballad of the Windfish. And we will let this play out. Excuse me. So right now on my clock on OBS, I am at a 1:43:17. I would say subtract 30 seconds from that from startup, so this is like about a 1... This would be at 1:43 right now. So from here to the end of the game is about 2 minutes, I'd say. So yeah, we're probably right. We'll probably be at about a 1:45, which is I would consider that a really good marathon time. Usually when I submit this game, I put a time of about 1:50. That just accounts for like anything like going wrong that might, you know, for some reason something really bad happened. I can just kind of correct for that. Yeah, 1:50 should be a good submit time. This will be about 1:45. Ideally, I'd love it to be a lot faster, but yeah. So this is, again, one of those things where it's like, Misty, how are you solving this puzzle? You have to do the entire trading quest to know the solution here. Yeah, we use that RNGC thing again as well, so I know exactly what the pattern is for getting through the Windfish's egg. And look at that! I solved it. Actually, considering this is glitchless, that would actually be the one thing that I feel like might be a bit glitchy, just because you are like picking a particular RNG seed, which is definitely not intended. But it's also you're not like going out of bounds or like breaking any code or anything. You just know the exact timing of when to make a save file. So yeah, not really a glitch. Anyways, this is Nightmare. Nightmare is kind of the a bit of like this boss gauntlet before you get to the final form. Here we kill this jail version or Zol version of Nightmare. Now we get Aghanim from Link to the Past. So this little fight is tricky because you want to get the red fireballs to bounce back while dodging those blue balls, which is very RNG dependent, and there's like a whole formula. Really bad luck would be getting 9 blue balls. Really good luck is getting 1. You always have to get 1, at least 1 blue ball. There I got 3 of them, which is actually really good. 5 is kind of the average. We kill Moldorm again. Now we get to kill Ganon. There we go. We got the quick kill on Ganon, which saves a good time. Now we gotta fight Landmola, it calls it in the game. It doesn't look like Landmola, but that's what the game calls it. And now we get to fight Nightmare's true form, which is Death Eye. Or if you're like me as a kid and the eye looked like an L to you, you call him Deathel. Technically Death Eye. And this just takes 10 arrow shots. You just have to have a good timing, and that's it for the boss. So time would be once you hit the black screen, once you go up the stairs here. Unfortunately, I can't exactly say time because I reset my splits, but that's alright. And time. So that would probably have been a 146.40, I think. Probably a 146.40, so that's actually a little bit on the slower side. So yeah, I would definitely submit this with a 150 recommendation. And yeah, that's Link's Awakening for Nintendo Switch. And like I said, it is October 2nd right now. I am picking up of 2022. I am picking up this game again. Hope to be streaming it for the next 6 months or so, pretty heavily. I'm going to be submitting this to a couple of runs that I'd like to try to get into. So hopefully that time will improve a good bit, and we'll get back up to the 141, 142 areas, which is where I would like to be, and hopefully even faster as we go on. But yeah, thank you for watching and listening to me for, you know, an hour and 45 minutes. And yeah, I will make you not watch the credits, even though the credits are amazing. Really beautiful animation, really great music. Okay, I'll stop rambling. Thank you. Bye bye.